Welcome, Niki. I'm going to pronounce the second name as well. Niki Misokefalou. Have I got it?
You did. Thank you, Brinsley. Thank you for
Nice.
having me.
Yeah, really looking forward to this one. I was just speaking to you, briefly a minute ago about why I'm excited about this one is because I'm really curious about associate coaching, associate coach hubs, and I'm sure lots of our students and coaches out there are really excited to kind of find out a bit more about that type of work. So yeah, of course, that's going to be a bit of a focus of the conversation today. But before we jump into all that, it'd be great to get a little bit of an intro from you about kind of who you are as a coach, the type of work you do, and also what's the makeup of your business.
Yeah, the $1 million question. I find always when people ask me, what kind of coach are you? I'm questioning, what type of coach am I? I think it's constantly evolving and changing. And okay, so I'm going to say what I tend to say and introduce myself with at the moment. So I call myself a personal and professional coach, and you might see me and working for different organizations. In my bio, sometimes we use the word well-being and career coach, depending on the company, obviously, what they're trying to promote. But what I find is that well-being is an important role in my coaching conversation, plays an important role in my coaching conversation. So it's a foundation. And purely because I believe that if we take care of ourselves and our well-being every day, it supports how we are showing up wherever we are. And okay, so what kind of work I do? So I mainly support people in when it has to do with confidence, motivation, work, and personal and professional balance. And I love to say, rather than balance, I use the word integration. And decision-making, mindset work. So those are the challenges that people usually come to coaching with me. And as you said, I work for a few different organizations as an associate coach. And that's mainly the work I do day to day. I also do have a small supervision practice, and mainly consisting of one-to-one coaching supervision rather than group, but I've started working with groups recently as well. But my main focus is coaching at the moment. Yeah.
Great, thank you for that. So mostly it's one-to-one coaching within associate coaching hubs, or for associate coaching hubs, and then there's also a supervision element to that.
Yeah.
And you work as a personal, sorry, go on.
No, I wanted to add that I also do start delivering group coaching as well through another organization, but that's a pretty new thing.
Nice. Okay. So the majority of your work is one-to-one, but there seems to be green sprouts of group coaching or group supervision that's occurring.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nice. And you've also got a link with Animas, haven't you? I wasn't quite sure what that link was. I knew you were sort of supervision-y, RPGs, practice cafes. So do you want to kind of just tell us about your relationship with Animas now?
Yes, about now, I run the RPGs and the practice cafes at the moment. Yeah, that's mainly my work for Animas. I used to be offering mentoring, but I'm not doing any more. So mainly RPGs and practice cafes.
And I heard you're going for your PCC at the moment also with the ICF, is that right?
Absolutely, yes. Fingers crossed. I'm submitting everything by the end of this month. Actually, no, the next month, because today is the end of the month. It's the 31st of October. So by the end of next month. So yeah, that's the next milestone for me. And I'm really, really looking forward to this because it has been too much work involved in that, which was brilliant. But it would be great just to feel that that's another thing that has been completed.
Yeah, I'm interested in that actually. What is it about that that's important to you?
About PCC, you mean?
Yeah, achieving that.
Achieving that for me was all this process of learning and growth that this involved, because it was I signed up on a group work around this. So I was working with a mentor in group sessions as well as one-to-one, and there was so much growth and from this that when I decided to go for my PCC, it was mainly because I wanted to up level my coaching. I wanted to go to the next level. I just wanted to really diving into the who, as we all know, into the PCC world, and purely my growth, my personal and professional growth. And I've learned so much from that. I'm not sure when I'm going to go for my PCC, but for now, PCC is really what I felt that I needed to support my professional growth.
So there's personal and professional growth in there for you. And I also noticed you said when rather than if for the MCC. So I guess that's something that you're looking towards for the future as well.
Yeah, who knows, maybe. I was going to say no, I'm not going to say yes. But yes, that might be something to maybe work on.
Nice. Often in these conversations, I love to kind of chronologically track, your journey. And, the title of these, this channel or this playlist, if you like, is Personal Journeys to Coaching Success. So we were going to start at the beginning. When did you train with Animas? And before that, what was your motivation to training with Animas? Why?
Yeah, great question. When did I train with Animas? I trained I started actually my journey in 2015. I was one of those people that took their time to qualify. So I qualified in 2017. What the other part of your question? What drove me actually to become a coach? Yeah, just a little bit of background. My first degree was in education. So I was working in education when I moved to London in 2010, I think. So I started as a teacher in education in primary school setting. And I always felt that there was something else that I wanted to do. There was something else that I felt always the need to support people, to have conversations and deep conversations. And I remember that I was doing a research back then, thinking, okay, what can I do? How can I pursue this? Because my interest was always psychology, and that was my first, choice for uni. I didn't go through the exams, and then I went to my second choice, which was a secondary school teacher, the subject of ancient Greek and Latin. Then I thought, it's never too late. I know that I had my daughter back then, who was only 3 years old. And I was looking into this, and I came across, obviously, counseling and psychotherapy, but I felt that there was something around coaching that really, this future focus approach was something that really connected with me and resonated. I went to a few open days with a few different schools, and I remember I went to Animas. I had the discovery day, and that was it. That felt like the right place to be. What I particularly liked was obviously this connection between all the ancient Greek philosophy that I have studied at uni, with all this idea behind the coaching approach for Animas. And yeah, that's how my journey started.
Yeah, and it is a very philosophical school in a sense. I think Nick came from a philosophical background, and of course you're working in people development if you're in education anyway, so it feels like there's lots of links there, and almost like it's an organic next step for you to add coaching. Yeah,
that's a great point, Brinsley. I like that, and I really like this idea of coaching being a skill that can be applied and expanded in many different areas we come from and we have experience with.
And just looking at that decision to train as a coach, at the time, were you setting the intention that you wanted to create an independent coaching practice, or was it something that you thought would support you in your existing work?
No, I was thinking of it becoming an independent practice. I always wanted to actually build my own, if not build my own business, but at least having the opportunity to work with people and support people, and that being my full-time thing, my full-time job. That was the plan. And I remember at the very beginning of obviously my work as a coach, I decided that I wanted to obviously keep my part-time job in education and run a coaching practice, run my own business, alongside that. And I remember that back then I was using my coaching skills at work, and people from work, they knew what I do, and they were asking my support with specific children. Or, I created, for example, a short course on transition from primary to secondary school that I delivered to children in year 6. And there were things that I did within the school setting. There were quite a lot of children that were coming from another country that were very insecure about their language or how they're going to fit in. And I remember I was working with children one-to-one or in groups around that. So there was lots involved, and I really wanted to, there was a period of time where I was experimenting and testing just to see and get a sense of who I am as a coach, what I really want to support people with, what kind of people do I really want to be spending time with. So this really shed some light on all this situation, and I soon realized that, maybe I just want to take a break from education. I just want to pursue something different, and I want to focus on supporting, grown-ups rather than children, at least at this phase, to overcome their challenges. And that's how the transition happened.
Got you. So 2015, you trained, and then here we are in 2022, 7 years later, and you have this independent practice where the majority of your work comes from associate coaching, as you say.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about that journey, because at the start you mentioned you wanted to have your own business or set up a business. I'm assuming the view was that you were going to build your own coach. I say your own, let me choose a different word. Build a coaching practice that was predicated on you going out and finding clients one way or another. Perhaps I'm wrong, so tell me if I'm mischaracterizing, but was that the plan?
Yes, that was the plan. That was the plan originally, for me to start, expose myself through various different media and obviously, start promoting myself in order to get there. But I soon realized that, I didn't really enjoy, if I can say that, spending too much time on social media to promote my business. I've done that for a few years, and maybe I didn't do it to 100%. Maybe I didn't do it as much as I could have done it. But, sometimes things happen in life, and you might have a specific direction, but then something might come your way and you might think, why not? So that was exactly the case with my associate coaching initiation, if I can say this, because what happened is that I had a friend who was a coach as well, and it happened for him to be Greek as well. And he said, oh, why don't you apply to this position? They're looking for associate coaches in this organization. Why don't you give it a go? And I thought, yeah, why don't I give it a go? I might as well do. And I remember back then I had my ACC, and I thought, well, most of the times people, and not always, but most of the times people from organizations, associations, they usually ask you to have some form of accreditation from an international body. I thought, I have that. Why don't I just give it a go? And then, that was my first success entering the associate coaching world, and it was a great success for me.
Great to hear. So what time was that? Where in the timeline? So 2015 you qualified, then you were out in the world, doing a bit of social media, maybe not 100% as you say, trying to build your practice, and then this opportunity came up. When was that?
Yeah, that was in 2021, I think, beginning of 2021. I think it was last year.
Oh wow, so it's quite recent.
Yeah. It is quite recent. And I've decided actually to go full-time coaching in 2020. After obviously working part-time in education and running my own practice with a few coaching clients, there was stability, but there were not as many as I was hoping to have back then. And I remember that most of them were coming words of mouth, which was nice. It was more of an organic, growth around that. And then 2020, I think I joined Animas. Actually, things happened at the same time, more or less. I don't know how this happens, but I don't know if you experience similar things in life, but I find that sometimes it's either everything in one go or nothing. But that was exactly what I experienced back in 2020 when I started working for Animas. Then I did apply. I did start my first associate coaching work, and then the other associate coaching work actually came in last summer. And soon after that, because I work for 3 organizations, soon after that, in February last year, February this year, I joined the 3rd organization.
So you work with 3. Go on,
sorry, go on. No, what I want to say is that I felt that, I know that lots of people talk about niching. And for me, I found all those opportunities as a way to really understand who I am and who I can grow to become as a coach. So I found them an opportunity to really get a sense of who I am, how I can support people, what are the people that I really like to work with, because I get exposed every day to such a huge amount of people that have such a diverse background that is just so inspiring to actually be able to experience day to day. And I don't think I would ever have the opportunity to coach people, so many people, and from so many different backgrounds, if I wasn't working for an organization. I feel privileged to say this because it really gives me a sense of who are the people that I want to work with, where do I see that I want to work with, or where do I see I want to work on as a coach? Let me change that. Work on as a coach to become better. What is the direction that I see my coaching is taking, if that makes sense?
It makes complete sense. Yeah. And it was one of the it's what I got from thinking about associate coaching and the benefits of it potentially, because often the challenges we face as coaches, like you say, is figuring out our identity or who might we like to coach. And this offers you the opportunity to coach all sorts of people from different walks of life. And I'd love to get more into that, but before we do, I just wanted to pause for a second and demystify associate coaching, because there are some people I think that might be out there like, what does that even mean? And here's my definition, and I'd like to hear yours as well. So I always describe associate coaching as Uber. So Uber, we're the taxi drivers. Associate coaching is Uber. They give us our clients. We don't drive around London looking for people to wave their hands at us, right? They just say, here's your client, drive over there, pick them up. Is that kind of what you'd say it is? And if you want to add anything to that.
I love that. I really love that. And it reminds me of this. You have now reached your destination. It's very much that. Absolutely. I totally agree. Yes, it's an organization that have contracts with certain companies, and then you have a specific in the platform. And most of the times you use the platform for everybody. It's the same. You share the platform, and they usually people pick you from a directory of coaches, and they choose according to your bio and who you are, what you bring, how you can support them, and they hopefully land to the ideal coach for them. And that's how you get work. But I know at least the work I do within those organizations, but I'm also aware of the fact that sometimes other organizations might give you already clients. So they say, for example, you need to work with this amount of people, and you take them for this X amount of time to work for.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it sounds like there's a bit of variance there in how associate coaches or associate hubs work with the coaches on their platforms. Sometimes you're on the platform like a directory, and they'll kind of pick you based on your bio, like you say. Other associate coach hubs will say you need to work with X amount of people. Gotcha.
Yeah. For example, with this organization that I started recently, and I'm literally having my first engagement this month, is they have already shared with me a specific group of people that they want me to work with. So they say you have 6 people, you need to go through those group sessions to support them on this journey. And there's even a specific, let's say, structure on how you structure your group sessions, as in what might the outcome be for those sessions. So it really depends. And there are another organization that I work for, and it's literally, you know, you get these clients, excellent, they come, they find you, it's your client. So obviously the organization pays you, but then it's up to you to have conversations with, exchange emails, support your client, and so on.
Mm-hmm. So in a way, it just cuts out all of the marketing, all of the finding clients.
Yeah.
To a certain degree. You still have to put your bio out there and be clear on who you are and what you bring. If people are going to pick you from a directory, and just to kind of look back on that journey of from 215 to 220, when you were out in the world exploring and creating a business, you know, what was it sounds like this opportunity came up and you took it. At the time, were you not really enjoying doing that style of building your business? Or were you enjoying that and this just came up and fell on your lap and you went with it? Because I'm always kind of interested if this is suitable for people who just don't want to be out on social media marketing themselves, or it's just an opportunity and now it's kind of working for you.
I suppose it can be both, to be honest. It just happened for me to be the right thing at the right time. And then what happened is that because I was getting busy with, you know, the associate work, I didn't have enough time to invest in my own business. But at the same time, this might change 2, 3, 4 years down the line. Who knows? I tend to approach it, and I don't know if it's the right or wrong way, but I tend to approach the whole thing more as an experimentation and really a learning opportunity for me to really get a sense of, you know, not really get a sense. Let me just phrase this in a different way. I believe in it constantly evolving, and I'm evolving with it. So I just have my eyes open to try different things. And if they work, great. If they don't, what else can I do? What's next?
Yeah, because often I hear people use it as a part of their portfolio of work as well, being an associate hub coach. You don't have to just work associate coach hubs. It can just be something that supplements a portfolio of work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just looking at associate coaching in more detail, it was surprising to me to hear that there's a directory, and sometimes you kind of get picked off the directory. I didn't realize it was like that. I just assumed you were going to get fed clients and they'll, you know, kind of work with you and guarantee you X amount of clients. So it's not like that. And then I guess it
can be like that, but not only like that. Yeah.
And when it is like that, what I think I heard is the topics that you might be working on might be predetermined, or the outcomes might be predetermined. Is that correct?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, at least from my experience, I don't know, maybe in different organizations, yes, but I don't obviously have experience from all the organizations, but at least the ones I work for. No, I wouldn't say they're predetermined. I know, for example, in one organization, they call all the people that they work for them as coaches, well-being and career coaches. So that is a title. That's why I said this at the very beginning, that maybe you can see me as a well-being and career coach at some point. But that's purely because their philosophy and their values and the work that they do is targeted on that. And obviously that's, again, up to you whether you fit with this, whether you agree with it, whether that's your style and you're happy to accommodate this. And that's something important, because when we go through all those the different organizations and associate works, it's really important to get a sense of who we are and how much the work that they do is really aligned to who we are and the kind of work that we like delivering for our clients. I think that is really important to remember when we choose something like that. For example, the one organization that I work for, and a well-being and career coach, is mainly around women. So it's all women that we coach in the workplace, and whatever they bring, obviously that there's all those different things that I mentioned to you before, integration of family and personal, professional life. Confidence is a big thing. So there's lots around this work that I always wanted to do with working with women and supporting women. So that really was aligned to my values and who I am. And that's why I decided to join them. But obviously there are other organizations that are pure corporate and leadership and executive coaching, which is not the style of coaching that I do. And then obviously that's different. I don't know why what led me to say this. I think you asked something else and then organically the conversation moved there, but I can't remember your original question. Oh yeah, I can't.
No, it's interesting to hear you say that, because I think I was asking around predetermined outcomes, type of clients you work with. Yeah, and I guess all these associate coaching hubs have a certain culture or a way of doing work or a type of work. So you found ones that suit you and who you are as a coach. And then also there's elements in the variety that you've been exposed to of types of people from different places in the world and working on different topics. And I guess that's different depending on what coach hub you're an associate coach for. Yeah, it makes complete sense. I guess sometimes I look at it and think, oh, it's just a scattergun approach. You know, you just want to be on all of the hubs and get as many clients as possible. But then like you say, perhaps it's not really aligned with who you are as a coach and the type of work you want to be doing. So it's about choosing wisely and finding something that's congruent or authentic.
Yeah, absolutely. Spot on.
And you were clear about who you were as a coach at that point when you were looking at associate coaching hubs then, because I kind of heard how you described that you're a well-being personal and professional coach and you've been developing your practice for 5 years alongside your part-time work in education. So you're really at a point where you could be super clear about the type of work you wanted to do. Or was there an evolution within the associate coaching hub work as well?
Yeah, I think the second, there was an evolution, but obviously there was something that drew me towards those organizations, something that really spoke to my values and how I want to be doing business and how I want to be working with people, really getting a sense of belonging in those. And that then this has evolved, absolutely. I mean, I have changed my bio a few times. It's not the same bio that it was last year, because there are certain things that you learn about yourself and your clients and how you want to be working with people alongside the way. So yeah, constant evolution.
And something I just want to pick up on also is what I'm hearing, just for anyone else that might be listening who's interested in becoming an associate coach, it's super important to have some type of credential, some type of international credential. That's what you mentioned. Is that kind of what you're seeing in the associate coach space?
Yes, most of the organizations do ask. I'm not going to say all of them, but most of the organizations do ask, usually the International Coaching Federation. I mean, at least the ACC, they do require that.
So if we're looking at being an associate coach, I'd love to hear from you what the pros and cons are of being an associate coach, because you've experienced being a coach outside of that world before. What comes up for you when I ask you that question?
That I haven't really sat down to think about it thoroughly, but yeah, I'm not sure I'm prepared to answer this question. But the pros and cons of an associate work, well, as I said before, obviously you don't need to market yourself. You're just being exposed and you're being chosen or you've been given, as you say, certain clients. It's also great that it's a sense of belonging. You belong in a team again. You have connections with people. You connect with people. You have certain ways of communicating between your team. There is support if you feel, for example, that you cannot take on a client. You might refer this client to someone else. And it's really great that, and we know how lonely can the coaching profession be, especially if you're working for yourself. And this sense of belonging was really vital for me. It was really, really important. So sense of belonging in a team, having opportunities to be trained, to learn new things. I mean, some organizations do offer this opportunity as well to train you, or they deliver webinars and workshops that you can obviously follow online, which is brilliant. You get to meet new people, so all those are the pros. And when it comes to cons, okay, so the negative side of that is obviously the fact that maybe you're not searching, you're not exposing yourself, you're not doing all this marketing thing where you can post one thing or another you might find inspiring, that you want to educate people about, or you want to share with others, and sometimes you might get, why I'm saying this is because sometimes you might get too absorbed by your work for organizations that you don't get enough time to really connect with people outside of this space, with your potential clients. I'm trying to think what else might be a con in that. Yeah, sometimes the pay is not the same. I mean, it's a fixed payment. Okay, so if you were, for example, working for yourself, then you might be changing your prices. You might be offering other things to your clients. You might be contracting in a different way with your clients in terms of the length of the session or the amount of time, or not the amount of time. Yeah, the amount of time you will be working together. Let's say 6 months. We contract that from the very beginning. So there's a little bit of restriction in terms of contracting, as well as payment, obviously, that you cannot change it easily. It's fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Less. Yeah, those are the cons that I can think at the moment. I'm sure that if I think about it, it's a little bit more something that I could add to this.
Yeah, I put you on the spot there, and I was really interested in what comes up in the moment for you, and I'm sure you could think of loads more after the conversation, as we usually do. But interesting to hear you talk about that. And I mean, pay was one of the ones I was kind of aware of. It's kind of a fixed fee. We don't really say you don't say this is my fee. You join a hub, they say this is the fees we pay, and that's it. One thing that came up for me when I thought about associate coaching is this is perhaps a pro, but maybe you'll correct me if not, is that when you're only coaching and focusing on the work that you're doing, you're not spending time thinking about a blog post or creating SEO for a website. That time can also be spent on developing your craft, going to supervision, reading books, listening back to recordings, really deepening your practice. It almost feels like a really great place to start when you're trying to build your coaching practice and develop the craft itself. And is that something you've noticed, that freedom for you through doing this?
Absolutely. And I felt that it's a safe space for you, let's say, in secure place to start really paying attention to who you are and growing as a coach. Because I remember before, when I was working for myself, I was so absorbed by constant thinking of, creating clients and having an income from coaching that was absorbing so much of my energy that I wasn't really just enjoying the idea of coaching and working with people. So now I feel that, as you say, I have the time to invest and the money to invest in coaching and development and reading, and it feels even more targeted, if that makes sense, because you're exposed in so many different clients day to day and so many different challenges. Obviously, there's usually a common denominator between those clients that come to you, but it's great that you can actually see what you recognize as your strength while you're supporting them, but also what you might recognize as something that you want to work on and improve on. And then you have, as you say, more time to invest in supervision and reading and learning.
And I also think about, I know you're a parent, I'm a parent as well, and there's only so many hours and minutes that we have in the day, right, to develop a practice. And I always think of associate coaching as something that could be really supportive in giving us that free time whilst building a practice or developing the craft. And is that something that's been true for you, and why it's been useful or beneficial?
200% true.
200%.
Absolutely. Yes, it has. It made a huge difference.
Yeah, so it's interesting to hear you talk about being part of a team? Because one of the assumptions I made about associate coaching is you're not really communicating. So you're actually having, do you have team meetings? Do you communicate with the other coaches in there? I heard you get training as well. What does that kind of look like?
Yeah, you do get training. Not all of them deliver training, yes. Some of them do deliver supervision as well. So you can enter a supervision session, group supervision session. Yes, there are platforms where you can, it's usually Slack, one that's very well known, and lots of people communicate through Slack. So lots of members communicate through Slack. There's also monthly meetings that you can have with other people to get to know people. If you really want to get involved, you can. There are many, many opportunities. I find the struggle of the time, personally, that is quite tricky, especially if you belong in more than one organization. You know, it's quite tricky to actually try to do everything, you know, socializing with everybody at the same time, if that makes sense. But yes, there are opportunities, loads, absolutely. And you're even given opportunities to write your own, you know, article about something. If you have a specific expertise, or if you want to deliver a specific workshop within the members of the community, you can always do that. There are many, many opportunities.
It almost sounds like a no-brainer, really, particularly for developing coaches to kind of get themselves on a few hubs if it's possible. What's the process like to get on some of them? I've heard it can be quite hard or stringent, depending on the different hubs. Do you hear of people getting turned down? Do you get? I'm sure there's lots of coaches trying to access these. Is there challenges in accessing these hubs?
Yeah, of course, as with everything, I suppose there are challenges, but again, I would say is mainly about really getting a sense of who you are, what you're bringing into the company, if this company is aligned to your values, and if you feel that you can really see yourself in this company. And why I'm saying this is, for example, if I was to go for an organization that mainly does leadership and executive coaching, I would probably be, you know, not be successful, if that makes sense, because my background is not that. But then it's mainly about really getting a sense of what your background is, what's the kind of work you want to be doing, and then delivering that and articulating that in the best way you can. I mean, and it's interesting because we think that, you know, yeah, we're all coaches, but obviously who we have been before becoming coaches and the experience we had, it does make a huge difference on, you know, when pursuing roles like this. Obviously, when you have a corporate background, it's maybe much easier to enter an association where, you know, they mainly do leadership and executive coaching.
So one of the things I take away from this for myself, if I was to go and apply for some coaching, associate coaching roles, is really get clear on the who and the why of me and my coaching specifically before I start looking, and flesh that out, the bio, and why I want to do the work I do, and what I might bring to the organization. And then it's a case of finding organizations that really appeal to that and align with me as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
And another thing I was wondering about associate coach work is, do you get to dictate a bit of your time, your diary? Do they say we need you available on these sort of hours? I mean, I'd love to get an idea of, you know, what your calendar looks like week to week, month to month. Is it predicated on what they say? Is it predicated on what you say? A bit of both. I'd love to hear some information about that.
No, the good thing is that it's really determined by me. So if I have available, some organizations do ask you for specific hours availability. So they say, for example, if you could have 20 hours availability per month, that would be brilliant. But obviously they're not going to say anything if you have 15 hours of availability. So I try to keep my availability open, you know, depending on how my schedule works every day. So I have certain days that I work for one organization and times, and then certain days and times for the other organizations. Yeah, so that's quite flexible. It's mainly up to you, really, when and how you want to work, and how often you want to work, and if, for example, something comes up and you you cannot, let's say you want a day to take a day off, then you can just simply do this on your calendar.
Nice. And you're on 3, right? So what that makes
Yeah.
me think a couple of things. Either one, there's not enough work from one of them, or that you like the variety that the different organizations give you. But can you kind of just add into that? Why would people be on multiple platforms?
Yeah, I suppose it's a little bit of both. I mean, sometimes you might not get enough from one. You might want to belong in more than one organizations. But also the variety that it gives you, the fact that you can work within a different system, if that makes sense. And one organization might offer something that the other doesn't offer. So the work, one complements each other, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the idea of, yes, A, not maybe getting enough from one, and B, having the variety and learning from different organizations and belonging in different settings.
And do you see yourself looking around at other platforms, or perhaps going into other hubs, or are you kind of happy with where you are now and what the business looks like for you?
No, I think I'm pretty happy with how I am at the moment. I don't think I would like to take more than, because I see that my energy splits between too many different, organizations, and I don't think it's the right thing for me, obviously. And for people to dive into different organizations and really be present and belong and be part of the team, I think it's important to have this balance. And I think up to 3 is my ideal number. I don't think I would go more than 3 organizations or projects.
Yeah, like you say, I guess there's an element of being present with the organization and committed to the work that comes through it. And I guess that's, you spread yourself too thin, right? Otherwise.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is there anything else that you would add? Maybe I'm not asking all the questions that I could about being an associate coach and what that brings up. But other than what we spoke about today, what else, if anything at all, would you add to the story of being an associate coach?
What else? I think we covered this from different angles, but one thing I would like to say maybe is, I know that I have been procrastinating a lot at the beginning, feeling that, what makes me different from other coaches, and I could be in this platform and belong in that. But I think, as many things, I mean, I did apply for another couple of organizations and I failed. And I'm thinking, at the end of the day, it's about showing up as yourself and owning who you are, and the right door will open. You might not knock 10 different doors, but one door will open and you will make a start. And this thing will build your confidence for the next interview that you will go, because there is a process, as you said. Yes, and we haven't touched on that. There is a process. There's usually an interview involved, and to see if you're the right fit for the company. But and sometimes you need to do a coaching demonstration. So you need to coach someone from the team to see your skills. But what I want to say is that there is competition, yes, but it's really important to own our stuff and who we are, which we tend to forget. And we always tend to say, as coaches, me included, that, what do I have to bring? What is different? What's the value that I'm adding? I mean, thinking even of this conversation today, I was thinking, but what can I bring that is different? But it doesn't need to be different. We can be us, and that's enough sometimes.
Thank you. Yeah, really nice to hear you talk about, I guess, the more personal side of it, rather than the nuts and bolts of being an associate coach that I was focusing on. To be okay with applying and not getting it, or getting the roles, first and foremost, it's an experience and a process. And also learning about who we are and what we bring, and kind of coming back to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as we look to the future of your coaching practice, and what you'd like to develop, where do you see it going?
Yeah, that's a great question. Where do I see it going? Okay, so as you're probably aware, I have moved back to my home country, Greece, last summer. And when I left, I had conversations with some of my colleagues, and I said, why don't we create a great, opportunity for retreats, coaching and supervision retreats in Greece? And I said, yeah, wow, that sounds like amazing. So that's one project that we started building with a team of some inspiring and great people that I work with, and I'm so privileged to have known in my life. So that is one thing that hopefully will be launched next year. Well, yes, it was supposed to be launched last year, but it didn't happen. So the aim is next year. We still haven't figured out if it's going to be a supervision or a coaching retreat, but we will start with something, and we're hoping to create something bigger out of it. So we'll maybe open up possibilities for more retreats to be facilitated here. That is one project. In terms of my coaching, as I said, PCC, I want this to be done, and I always find opportunities to, to study more, and obviously I have the time now, more of the time rather than trying to build my business. So I am really devoted in learning and growing around that. So I'm always looking to complete a course, usually once a year. I have a few interests about, but I haven't really chosen yet. And in terms of my practice, I want to develop a little bit more my supervision practice, and also to carry on with associate coaching work. And I like to give myself a deadline, as in, let's say for a year from now, I want to reevaluate things. So once a year, I reevaluate and really get a sense and a picture of how I've been last year. So if I feel, for example, that I don't belong in an organization anymore, I might, just close this chapter and find something else that might be talking to my heart a little bit more. So I have my eyes open, if that makes sense. I don't have a preset plan, but I constantly evaluate a year ahead as to what next year might bring. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Sounds like lots of interesting and exciting sprouts. And funny you should mention the retreat, because I was in an interview with Marcus, which has not been published yet, and he was speaking about the retreat. It sounds fantastic, but I heard it didn't go ahead, but you still went, and it sounds like there's the platform for you to build upon that. So yeah, that sounds really exciting, a kind of new space to deliver in-person work in Greece. Absolutely. Right?
Yeah, in Greece, near the sea.
And then also I heard you like to do a course once a year, which kind of piqued my interest. Is that something that's a new idea or something you've done previously? And if so, what courses have you undertook? And are they courses that, I guess, develop you as a coach, or is it personal development? What does it look like?
Yeah, I suppose it's a little bit of both. I see the personal with the professional going hand in hand, to be honest. Well, yes, I've done my PCC. It took me 6 months. Then before that, I've done my supervision course, which took me quite a few months as well. So I've been constantly having something to work on, if that makes sense. I don't even think I had a break ever since I qualified as a coach. So yeah, and I'm still thinking of what's going to be my next one. I'm really excited about that.
And when you do this yearly review, when you look back on your last year and look back on the year coming up, what questions do you ask yourself?
I usually ask myself, well, what have you enjoyed doing? What would you like to carry on doing? What would you like to stop potentially doing? And yeah, what would you like to be doing more of and less of? I think those are the questions I usually ask myself.
Lovely. Yeah, they sound like great questions to kind of open up that internal dialogue and figure out next steps, perhaps, and how you kind of shape your coaching practice in the future.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so looking back at your kind of journey to building a coaching practice, what are your key takeaways when you look back across that kind of, I guess, 7-year stretch?
That is a journey. That is a never-ending journey for me. An inspirational journey. That's, as I said before, the personal and professional growth is going hand in hand. And I think the more we want to be professionally capable and able to deliver and hold the space for our clients, it's important to understand that our personal growth is paramount for this to happen. So if we want to be growing professionally, we need to be growing personally. And and that's a journey that I'm committed to my own self. That makes sense moving forward. But I still am not sure if I replied to your question, Brinsley. What did you ask?
Yeah, I think you did. Well, perhaps you did. So I said, as you look back on the journey of building a business, what are your key takeaways? And I guess the personal takeaways about what you noticed about yourself as a human being, and also what you noticed about the practical side of actually building that business. And I heard you talk about the personal and the professional being so important for you. But is there anything you'd add into that?
Yes, I would add this idea of feeling the fear and doing it anyway, because we are so much into our stories of not being able to do things and how am I going to build a business, or how am I going to make this work? But I think it's important to really be aware and address our fears and address our challenges. And the moment we do address them, we can overcome them and work towards them. Self-doubt is something that I'm experiencing many times in my coaching, and I hold the space many times for many of my supervisees to express the self-doubt. But self-doubt is always going to be there. It's important for us to actually really get a sense of what this self-doubt might be trying to teach us.
The self-doubt, that's been one of your biggest challenges and something you notice in the clients that you supervise.
Absolutely.
And it is always there, isn't it? So how do we work through that? How did you work through it?
I'm still working through it. I don't think it's ever going to be like, yes, I've mastered this.
Very true. How do you take one step further then?
I think it's about really getting in tune with myself and really reminding myself of what I have achieved so far. And tapping into our strengths is really, really important. And doing it often, because we tend to have this ability to focus on what we're not doing well, when we could be spending more time on, what we're actually really capable of doing, and having awareness of the things that are not supporting us, but how can we improve on them? So it's a lot about introspection and going inwards and really spending time with ourselves around that.
And looking at the positives, right? I love that. I think there's a really nice piece in the Prosperous Coach where he suggests that you keep all the greatest comments and feedbacks you've ever had and look back on them, because it's so easy for us to look back on all the challenge or the doubt. But how often do we keep all those love letters when it comes to our coaching that we may receive? And that does build us up, right?
It does. It does. It's about being consistent again. Consistency is the key.
Yeah, can I pick up on that then? Consistency. I mean, what do you do consistently to keep yourself on a level for moving forward, building your practice? Do you have any rituals and any routines week to week? How do you feed yourself and develop yourself?
I'm not very good at rituals, to be honest. I've never been, but maybe that's something I need to work on. I recognize for myself. Well, what I love doing is I love dancing. So dancing brings me into a state of actually being and being present. So dancing is a form of expressing myself, and I think, by spending this time for myself, which I think is with myself, which is really, really important. Going back to the well-being, I was talking to you at the very beginning, and how we can show up for ourselves. I think for me is really, really taking care of ourselves in whatever in the way that is personal to us and important to us. It's really, really about connecting. It can be through meditation, it can be through, breathing, exercising, whatever that is. It's really important to connect to who we are before we enter a session, before we support someone, before we facilitate a space for exploration. Is really connecting with who we are in whatever way we can do that.
And music is one of the ways, or dancing rather, is one of the ways you do it. Yeah, it's somatic in a way, isn't it? It takes us out of the cognitive, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Niki. Really nice to hear about you developing your coaching practice, what it's been like to be an associate coach, and also find out a little bit about you, the human being, and kind of what the challenges were, what the successes were, and what you do year to year or week to week to kind of keep yourself developing. Perhaps we're going over ground we've already covered, but I'll ask a question anyway. When you look back at yourself at the start of the journey to developing a coaching practice, what advice would you give yourself?
Enjoy it. Purely enjoy it. We get so much consumed by the fears that we really don't create space for enjoyment. And I think enjoyment is the word that's really shouting out loud in my head, as in enjoy the process. It's a great journey to be on.
Thank you. Lovely. Okay.
Thank you.
So moving forward,
thank you very much.
If anyone wants to, get in contact with you or find you, where can they find you?
I'm one of those coaches that don't have a website page. So people can reach out to me through LinkedIn or Facebook. Yes, those are the two ways.
LinkedIn and Facebook. Great. Well,
Yes.
Thank you so much for the conversation and sharing a little bit about yourself. I wish you all the best and see you soon.
Pleasure. Same to you. Thank you, Brinsley.